Welcome back to the Win with Dice podcast, a podcast featuring members of the Win with Dice team. I'm Calvin, and I'm joined here by Ramon.
Hey guys, pew pew lasers and stuff. Guess what we're gonna talk about?
As per usual, yes. We just streamed a Lancer game literally yesterday at the time of recording, a few days ago at the time of upload. But yeah, we just came off of that. It went very well, I think.
I don't know. You tell me.
Well, in my opinion, it did. I felt like I got to do a bit more character stuff, just like those interactions with Magenta Orangutan. But we can talk about that when we get into the game, because this is a podcast about like RPG tips and advice and any sort of thing we've picked up along our years of DMing. I guess I've lost track of the amount of time.
Our journey into our journey behind the screen.
Ooh, basically, yeah. Just to make it seem a bit more relatable, so anybody who wants to start running their own RPG game, whether it's in Pathfinder or Lancer or anything else, you can feel more comfortable doing that. We have started a new thing this year where, like professionals, we also mentioned to follow us on Twitter and Facebook and all that, but also we do a DM tip. I don't know if you had one ready for this week.
Yeah, well, so in theme of us talking about the Lancer session, let's talk about like rollable tables and kind of that the idea of making skill checks more gamey, but at the same time like having like clear defined like outcomes or goals or choices and stuff like that. I would say that you can tackle a scenario by breaking it down into like different events, right?
Right.
So let's say if I think that I was gonna go back to is like large scale combat, especially in like a medieval fantasy setting. Could be kind of weird because your character, right, is like a super powerful badass who can defeat dragons and stuff, but at the same time he can't be everywhere on like a battlefield, right, or something like that. And battlefields could be chaotic. Maybe you're trying to defend a castle or something like that. You can have different events and give different DCs or whatever requirements that needs to be fulfilled. And then as like the battle progresses, you cut to like a cutscene, and then this thing happens, and then you roll. But I also like as we will get into the game, just giving your players like a clearer direction of like outcomes, I guess. I think that kind of helped out in the Lancer game, where I just kind of showed you guys a table of like, if you rolled really low, this is what will happen, right?
So
And gave the players a choice to be like, what bad thing do you want happen to you?
So would the tip be then, I guess, clear indication of consequences as well as alternating systems as you need to make the gameplay more interesting?
Yeah, definitely. That's the tip, as Calvin puts it.
Okay. That's our tip of the week.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Tip of the week, yeah.
let's I guess let's get into the game. So you did mention, I do have to say, like you mentioned that I was good at taking notes, and I have to admit I'm really bad at taking notes during a stream.
Right.
Just because it's too many things at once. So my notes for this are kind of sparse, but if you guys want to see what happened, there's a video on our channel of our stream, the video on demand, and we'll obviously link it in the description. But we pretty much started off both getting a mission and sort of recapping the downtime that we'd experienced in between sessions.
So, yeah. So okay, like I'm also nervous as hell when I'm streaming, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like, and I haven't had a real good grasp of like the narrative I'm trying to run in Lancer right now. So I have the players just kind of on like a blink station. So that to me, that's like kind of like a you can go anywhere and do anything kind of situation, right? So you have access to like the wider Union space. So I mean, if you guys want to go to a planet, you guys can just make up a planet, and then I'll just put it next to a blink station, and then boom, you're there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But as well as like, but that's the thing, right? I don't know if that's really entertaining to put on stream. So I just kind of was just like, Yeah, we'll just do it off stream, and then I did it kind of almost individually. It was like throughout the week, whoever was like free or whatever, I would just grab a person and be like, "Hey, what do you want to do in your downtime?" And I gave them like, I don't know, a couple weeks, right? I don't really know how much downtime time like things actually take, but the way Lancer works is that you kind of they break down your resources, right? So it's like you had 2 months, you can allot like that as like time or like you know that's like how many events you were able to be a part of or try and do, right? Or there's like resources, right? So it's like, oh yeah, you were able to find some like a shipment, a free shipment or something of like mech parts. Then that's like a resource. You kind of as like a blanket all statement of resources, and then there's like your reputation.
Mhm.
And based on that, I gave everybody like pretty much the same allotment of stuff, except they were kind of in different forms. So it's like after the first session, you guys had a reputation because you guys took down like a pirate captain that was like, but you brought her in alive, which is pretty hard, right? Because it's like mech combat, so it's pretty dangerous.
Yeah.
So I gave you guys an extra reputation. I gave you guys some more resources, and I gave you guys like double time, or maybe it's one resource. I don't remember. But everyone got the same amount of stuff, and everyone could just use it to do whatever. And then I also gave you guys kind of like an overarching list of things that you have to do, like the party in general, to so you can go on the next mission. One of them was like I know my player Steven wanted to pilot a Barbosa, which is a very, very big mech, and basically took up all the mech spots in your current ship. So I told everybody, I was like, I don't know who's going to do it, but someone's got to figure out how to get a bigger ship and a crew, right? That was the two things people had to take responsibility for. But for the rest of the time, you can do whatever you want.
Right.
And I think so. Your character was the one who found like found a ship and like bartered for it, and then use your connections at IPSN because you did some advertising for them, being like, oh, cool, look how cool this spec palette is. They're using our licenses. You'll be cool too, like right?
Basically,
So,
we're corporate spot.
right.
It's like a hashtag sponsorship kind of thing.
Yeah. You're influencer now.
Yeah.
Right. So you did that, and you were able to use their shipyards because all Blinksgate stations typically have some sort of like IPSN kiosk or registration area, or like just because like they're heavily involved in shipping, and obviously Blinkgate stations are necessary for interstellar shipping, and they want to they also have like help out a big the Diaspora community of Sporian community of like Cosmopolitan. The Cosmopolitan is like somebody who travels all the time, and therefore they're out of sync of time flow from like regular time, right? So it's like the whole thing with time dilation. So they live for thousands of years. So every time they stop into a Blinkgate station, you go to like an IPSN kiosk or like a reception or whatever, and you can get updated on like what happened in the last 100 years, kind of deal, right?
Oh, interesting.
because so that they offer that kind of service. But anyway, so you were able to sweet talk your way because you're kind of like an influencer to use their shipyard, and was able to put the ship together relatively quickly because you had access to access to like proper ship maintenance gear.
Yeah, like with my character's background as like a mechanic and coming from scrapyards, like that was just like because when I was coming in, I think Corey and Joel had already done their downtime at that point, and I saw that we didn't have a ship yet, so I was like, okay, I think I can do this, and I don't know, it was a little bit vague, but luckily we were able to work out like a way that my character could do that. The ship, of course, wasn't in like awesome condition right away, but it was certainly large enough and certainly flyable, which is all I was aiming for.
Right. And in that session, I also had Steven, because Steven was able to jump on, and that was hilarious because he had like the not like normal thing, I should say.
Yeah, we should probably cover like everyone's downtime
right?
thing.
So Stevens was like he just told me like, yeah, I don't know, I have lung cancer, and I was like, lol, what? Right?
Yeah, that was sudden.
He's like, I have lung cancer, and I was like, okay, I guess you're just gonna die by mission 5 if you don't fix your lung cancer. And he's like, okay, sounds good. I'm gonna switch to vapes. And I was like, okay. So he like made like a roll, and he got enough vapes to last him that long, but he wasn't good enough, so he's still gonna die at mission 5 from lung cancer.
Yeah,
I
unless we
guess.
figure out something, which I thought was interesting because we were mostly focused on like game stuff, and I like that he's leaning more into the RP end of things because I think Lancer is really like adaptable for that.
Yeah,
Especially
and
like with
it was
skills
funny
being very
because
vague. Oh yeah, sorry.
yeah, and like he also mentioned like that's the reason why he got a Barbosa, because it had like the highest HP, it like had so much armor, like it just barely gave a shit about anything.
Exactly.
And he's like I daring the universe to kill me before I die of cancer. Like I bet it can't.
Yeah,
Like,
it really comes across in play, like the way he controls his character and the way his
oh
character
my god,
acts.
like it is so he's so like not caring about anything. But anyway, like so he did that, and then I was like, okay, your doctor, who's like, okay, let's go get a drink, is like, you're gonna die, you gotta fix this. Here, go to this experimental gene therapy clinic on like a run by like an by SSC, like a SSC laboratory,
Hmm.
who's doing testing or whatever, because like they're into like that kind of IO enhancement. And I was like, yeah, you have to go do that next time, or else you're never really gonna get a headway on this, and then you have to make a new character. And he's like, yeah, that sounds good. I was like, what? But like, okay, anyway, so Joel, I think he read the mission, and he was like, oh, we have to like hack into a place, because I sent everybody like a mock email of like their handler giving them like the next mission, like details on the next mission.
Yeah.
So Joel went and worked on his Omni tool to make it so it's able to like download faster and specifically for the mission. And I was like, okay, cool. So I gave him some bonuses for it. So like he'll get like when he actually has to when he actually has to do the thing in the mission to get the data, he will like do it twice as fast, because that's what he specifically wanted, and he also gets accuracy on it. So I was like, yeah, okay, you spent most of your downtime doing that anyway. And then he also got the NHP that you guys recovered in the initial session or initial mission before that, were from the pirates, and got it. It's called reset essentially. I forget what it's called when they reset it, but they got reset, and then now you guys have an NHP on your ship. Her name's Andromeda, which I named her because it took me so long to figure out NHP names, because they're like cool kind of otherworldly beings, like super duper AIs, right?
Yeah,
And
they
I'm
were
like,
AI made by AI, I think is what you had described it as before.
yeah, which is like nuts. Basically, they're basically gods that can able to think out of their like coding and destroy reality if they really wanted to. So that's why we reset them all the time.
Yeah, so they don't get too smart. I was
They don't
actually
get too
thinking
smart.
about if you remember Codex, the AI from our Starfinder game.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
just thinking, I don't know, one day we'll have a crossover where those two meet.
Nice.
Or maybe they'll fight each other, who knows?
Oh, maybe they'll just be best friends. And talk about how dumb it is, the people piloting the ship there. Yeah, so you guys have an NHP, which is awesome. And then he also met a New Horizon, which I think is a group in the Lancer lore that is all about like basically freeing NHPs. I think that's what they do. Well, that's what they do now. They
Sure.
want to like make NHPs like basically they're NHPs are slaves, right? They have their own thoughts, but they're like kind of forced to do what we want them to do, and they're like, that's wrong. They're actual people, like, but not human, right? So, but they're people, so they're like, we'll take them and put them into a place, which I think is like a big vault or something, where they're able to just all
Just
kind of
think.
chill together.
Yeah.
Yeah, just all think and chill together in their own meta fold think space area together. So it's like they get to just be themselves, I guess, and not have to be like a tool. And so they had Joel had a little bit of conversation with them, and that was like kind of cool. But now he calls them hippies, but they're not really that hippies. They're more like, more about like social justice and stuff like that. Like
They're space
Connor,
hippies.
yeah, the space hippie. Uh, but which is cool. Turns out Horus doesn't like them, so like there might be some conflict with that. And Corey, his character went and got started us like a pilot security firm, like basically just like found a bunch of pilots and a bunch of smaller fighter jets, and the whole idea of it is like an escort thing, right? So they'll travel along with your transport, provide security services, right? So he
Mhm.
started that, and he was able to put that together, and then now your crew is been now your ship has been crewed by his dudes,
Yeah.
which I put as like an option if you want to deploy them, and if Corey wants to put more effort into those dudes, they'll be like a squad, or maybe he can get a mech, like another mech for them, and they can be on the battlefield with you and stuff like that. So there's like a whole bunch of options you can do there. Um, I also came up with the idea just recently that maybe if you guys want, you can probably have um, Andromeda be on the battlefield with you, like she copies herself, and a portion of her can be on the battlefield in like a mech, because you could just take NHPs in your mechs and drive them around and stuff like that, right? So
That's
you could have her
actually
own
really tempting.
mech. Yeah, because it's like what's it? It's like Mass Effect 3 with oh, what's her name?
Edie?
I forget. Yeah, wasn't she a part of the ship? Like, this is literally what this is literally what it is. It's like Edie
Yes.
from Mass Effect is like you guys could make that happen if you wanted to. So there's tons of cool stuff, and yeah, that was all the downtime stuff, which I don't think we even went over that much in the actual stream, because I kind of wanted to get straight into the action
Yeah.
where you got busted into
We did mention
the
that
base.
Hitomi knew about, like my character knew about Magenta Orangutan's condition, which was essentially only because I happened to be in the chat at the time that you were doing that.
Oh yeah.
Like, I just was nosy and didn't leave when I was finished, so.
Man, that was fine. I don't mind. Who knows? But it ended up becoming good later, because you guys kind of bonded a little bit. That kind of have a little bit of character development between you guys.
Yeah, that's kind of what
Which is kinda cool.
I wanted it for that. Like, after it was, like, established as canon, I was like, okay, now I'm gonna lean into this.
Yeah, man. I think that a lot of people, at least the team, I feel like everyone's kind of disjointed. Like no, no one really like works together. Everyone's really kind of annoyed that they have to be on the same team as the other person, which is, I don't know, it's not good for morale.
You gotta learn to work together.
Yeah, right. So, boom, I started off. I had actually had an encounter before that planned, before you guys started actually in the base, and I was like, I'm gonna cut this. Like, it's not that cool, and I wasn't gonna deal with it. I rather you guys just start right in the base. And the whole scenario is that, or the mission, they're breaking into like a very secured research facilities, basically just like a research like fort, essentially. Like, there's tons of mechs, tons of security guards, tons of hallways and barricades and stuff like that. It's like a big fortress, right?
Right.
And so you guys have to crack in from the bottom, because like it's on like an icy planet. It's kind of built inside of the dirt, but there was a thin section between the ice and rock and the exterior of the base, and you're able to punch through. And so you guys started at like the bottom right corner, and you guys had to get to the top right corner of the map. And I gave you guys the other thing in the scenario is that you got dropped off, but they're gonna come and get you once the mission starts. Once you get your mechs into on the map, you had 20 rounds essentially to fulfill the mission, and it was like a countdown clock till your evac, right?
Yeah.
And so the pressure was on, but I don't think I clearly explained that to the players, because at one point I think you were at the 3 rounds down, and I was like, you guys need to get going. This is all the time you have for the entire mission.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh wait, there's more encounters after this one, which I thought
I think
was...
we knew that there was gonna be more encounters. It was just like I was under the, like, because when I listened to it back, I could see how that miscommunication happened. Because I was under the impression that we had 20 rounds for this first area, and then we'd have to like get in there, get the thing, and then work our way out. I didn't know it was 20 rounds total for like the entirety of the mission, so there was a bit of pressure because we used up a not insignificant amount of rounds during that whole thing.
Yeah, and it was so the idea of the map. Maybe I'll Calvin, if you could just pull up the map when you're putting this together.
Okay, sure. Let me
really
just tap it.
just like a snip of the map. But yeah, so the bottom, there was like a couple hallways going up, and then right in front of the players, like directly in front, was to the left of them was like a double door, and the doors had stats that had like 10 HP and like 2 armor or something like that each. And everybody knew beforehand to bring a lot of AP weapons because Corey actually, also on top of his downtime, went and did a little bit of research. So he found out, I gave him the specs of one of the mechs that he's going to fight, right?
Right.
And he realized there's lots of armor. And I told him, like, that's kind of like the general sense of like everything here. Everything's going to have armor. So lots of AP all around, right? And I was like, okay, this is what I thought you guys would do, right? So the long hallways to the top are like very narrow, and it's like if you go up that way, you're gonna have to like fight the enemies, right? But the way that the whole place is set up, it's like enemies on the other side of the double doors won't be able to get to you, right? They're just and like they're I should say not won't be able to get to you. They won't have line of sight of you, right? So you could like either take your time and destroy the enemies up top and go the long way to kind of go around the loop, or just bust your way through the bottom 2 doors, and one of the bottom 2 doors, and run in and then go deal with the stuff on the other side, because it would just take the top dudes at the top right long enough to get down, right? And I was just like, maybe if everyone just kind of focuses on actually just getting to the other side, this will be okay, right? That was not the case.
Nope.
Everyone immediately went out for blood and just started attacking the mechs, even though that was like not the scenario. Like, it didn't matter how many mechs you guys killed. I was just gonna keep putting more out, right?
Yeah,
So,
I think we realized like partway through that like we gotta get like I mean, for one, we have to get Magenta Orangutan to the other side of this because he is very, very slow.
he only moves like 2 spaces. Like, it's insane, right? I was like, I told Steven, I was like, are you sure? This is what you have to do. You have to go through this place, right? And he's like, yep, I'm not gonna change my mech. I was like, okay. Like, you can still use your Everest, man. Like, he's like, no way, man. Barbosa all the way. So, but we found out some cool mechanics, like that your character, your mech, because of synthetic muscle netting, can just literally pick him up and drag him anywhere he wants.
Yeah, essentially, like my character, because I was trying to build like a grapple build. So my character is able to grapple characters that are, like my mech, I should say, is able to grapple mechs that are larger than it. And when I'm grappling them, like obviously I can move them. So my speed was, much higher than the Barbosa mech. So essentially I was like pulling and we were like leapfrogging our way through the halls. After he had blown up a big hole in the wall.
Yeah, which took way too long for you guys to get over that. Like, it was, I don't know, like in my head I was like, okay, this will be pretty easy. Like, and I also thought that like maybe just the choices you guys made as mechs were not suited for this. Is a very challenging like encounter, because I was like, there's so many mechs out there that could just teleport, can move people. There's abilities that allow you to just destroy terrain really easy. But you guys had none of those options, and I never thought about it. Right? I was like, oh man, they'll be fine. At least they have AP weapons, right? It's like the doors aren't really moving. They're really easy to hit, right? If anyone just decides to be like, all right, I'm just gonna attack the door, then the doors will just die, right? But that was not the case. Everyone was like, I need to attack these mechs.
Look, they were in the way.
Didn't really yeah, I know.
They had so much fire. All right, I've never seen that much fire in a fight in my life. Okay,
but they were slow, and there was So I gotta admit, had 3 enemy types on the map. One was a repair mech that was able to put out repair drones, and their main focus was to repair the doors as you guys destroyed them. Right? Its thing was like, oh god, the doors are being destroyed. Let me shoot my little repair mech, and then maybe I'll help out my teammates, but that was not its job, right? And then on the left side of the screen, where all those flamethrower mechs were, they were really slow. But if you guys were able to bust through the door and make it up, then you guys would like. There's no way for like the mechs to really like. They're like, you could have gotten past them or dealt with them easily, right? And then I had the long range, pseudo long range, like mid range mechs who do a lot of damage, but like they still have to like get to you guys still and require line of sight. Like they would take a while to get to you, right? So it would kind of force you guys to go one way or the other, either up, defeat them, or go around. But I don't know what happened, but everyone just kind of stalled out in the center. And I was like, shit, did I mess this map up or something? Like, I put a lot of thought into it.
I don't know. Like, I got distracted by like, I don't know. I don't know what my plan was. I was just thinking like, I gotta pull this guy. I had started moving, and then I was like, no, I gotta go back, and then I was like, oh, but now I don't know what direction to go in because he's charging a thing to blow up a wall. So let me just wait for him to finish that, and then I'll go that way. So.
Well, okay. Shout out to one of our somebody who caught the stream and commented, Rich McGee, Mickey, I think that's his name, right? But he mentioned like the plan, right? Like what you guys could have done, and his plan was insane. Like he said that if your Blackbeard was able to grapple the Barbosa, and then move and boost, right? Obviously, and Goblin could have used puppet systems and then made you move again, right?
Yeah, so we would have got like my 5 and then another 2 from puppet systems, and then.
Well, you could have forced them to move. He could have made you move your entire movement, right? I think he has an ability.
Oh, I thought puppet systems was only 2. Okay, well maybe I think of something else then.
Yeah, it's like I think it's the hacker thing where you're able to when you lock on to somebody, use a lock on as well. But even that, like that's like a lot. That's like maybe 10. 15. That's like the fastest a Barbosa ever moved ever, right?
Yeah.
like I was like, okay, that's the plan to get Steven over there.
Yeah, I think we might have to apply this strategy more often in situations where you have to get somewhere quickly.
Oh my gosh, and it made me like the same thing I think I said last episode or last podcast, where it was like scenarios that don't require just like sorry, what's a deathmatch, right? It's like these enemies, they do a lot of damage, right? And they have like area effect stuff, so it's like it's not like you have to like what you really have to do is just try to avoid them as much as possible, right? I think Joel did a good job too. He jammed a lot of people. He jammed a lot of those mechs from wasting a turn of just like getting unjammed so that they can fire their flamethrower, because you guys grouped up a lot because you had to. It's tight quarters. I think it was like a really tough map, but I think that like other mechs and other like pilot stuff, like other builds, would be able to tackle it like no problem, because there's like mechs out there that are able to just be like, all right, there's like a bubble of nothing, you can just teleport through there or something.
Can we just like, can we do that at level 2? Like, I don't know. I'm just trying to like.
Yeah, I think the one mech specifically is able to do that. The Sun Tzu, he has like a his thing is like blink teleportation, so he's able to like make a bunch of holes in reality. It's basically what's that game? Portal. He's basically Portal the mech, right? So he's able to just do that. What other mechs do crazy shit? Like, oh, the Morning Cloak can just teleport inherently, so it doesn't matter.
Look, right? Man, I just want to grab people.
Yeah, right. If you guys are playing like and the Tortuga, let's not forget Tortuga, it has like the battering ram. He's able to just destroy like 10 AP damage to an object. So those doors would have been gone. Actually, the whole building would have been gone. He would have just slammed your way through and made a hole, right? Yeah, I don't know. I thought really hard about this scenario to be like, no, I'm not being too hard. I can figure it out, but
no plan survives first contact with the players. A lesson that we learn over and over and over again.
Yeah, but it was good. I think the players were frustrated. I think you guys are frustrated enough that it's like it wasn't like a cakewalk, but like it was rewarding when you guys made it through, right?
Yeah.
And figured it out. I hope so. Anyway, but yeah.
No, I just remember a whole lot of fire being in that battle. A whole lot of lines of fire and that big cone of fire that was super scary when you put it on the map.
That was my favorite. I love actually using the templates when you just drop them on. You're like, oh my god.
That's what they're doing to us.
Yeah. So
But yeah, so we were
It was
able to
cool.
make it through that room. Just everybody moving along and Junkbot helping Magenta Orangutan just like leapfrog through the map.
Yeah, there's some good solid teamwork there. And then we went to like a narrative mode. Well, I didn't really want. Like, I was like, I had to visualize like what it would be like if you're in like a building, you don't know where you're going, right? You don't really have information on it. I was like, how do you get to the place that you need to go? And then so I made this like board, like a 5x5 board, and I had like numbers written behind it, and I hid it behind So basically, everyone is supposed to like pick like a square, and that's like I called it drawing a card, but because it's roll 20, it's like I had to figure out how to do this. I figured this all out like hours before we actually played. Like
Yeah,
this was, like,
yeah. There's a lot of that going around for the streams.
yeah, last minute is shit because I just had like for life of me I couldn't figure it out until the very end. I was like, oh my god, here it is. And I actually took this from I'm in like a No Room for Wallflowers game. And there was like a section where it's like, okay, this is like a minor attack or like a little like mini war or whatever, right? Like what are the things that will happen to your mech, right? And so I took that table, added a few things, and I had this mechanic where the countdown will go down every like 4 failures you guys get, and like obviously like 0 to 9 you get a failure right off the bat, and then there's a long list of choices you get to choose, and that's between like 0 to 9, 19 to or 10 to 19, and then 20 plus. It's like good, like you're great, you did it, you can help out a teammate, right? And I think you guys like that a lot. And each number, I should say, underneath these cards, they have like it's like an event or like a room or something. It's like an area you guys go to.
Yeah.
And some stuff like additional stuff happens. So
So yeah.
but again, I did that like hours before, like very last minute, and I never considered that it might be way harder than I thought.
A little bit, because like you were saying, like there's this grid. We can't see what the numbers are, but we pick one, and then it'll like we're looking for. You gave each of them a number and a color, so we were specifically looking for a certain number of green ones, which was definitely 4, not 5.
My bad.
So you gave us like a certain number of green ones that we had to find, but every time we revealed one, it would give us a number, and that number would set the scenario for like this sort of skill check situation. And then we roll a check for it, and depending on the result, things happen. Like within the skill checks, things will happen. But you also had like this general, larger overall table that was like, also these things are happening, which was very, very tough to do well on. I think we.
Oh yeah, it was hard. What I should have done was allow, like, now I'm thinking back of it, I didn't want it to be easy, right? So I was like, all I could think about at the time was like, okay, what bad stuff can happen here, right? But I didn't factor in enough good stuff, right? And that's a problem.
A little bit, because we did end up running into a lot of blast doors showing up.
Okay, it was hilarious because like you guys got most of the blasters during that thing, and I gotta admit they are kind of the most. I think I got here 1, 2, 3, 4,
it's
5,
like
6.
Yeah, 6 or 7.
6 out of 25. 7, yeah, 7 out of 25. Right, that's a lot, right? And there's also like the major, like when you guys get like basically like reinforcements show up and like you hit a heavy patrol, and that was also pretty hard. And then there was a part where like the place is under construction, so there was like a tipping point where like if the first roll went bad, it would be very hard to recover. I was like, oh, these are all so. When I was doing it, I was like, oh, these are all so cool. They're so thematic. Right, everyone's gonna love it, not realizing how difficult to actually set this to be.
That's the thing, though, is like we all still enjoyed it. Like everyone enjoyed it. I know I enjoyed doing it. Just the way that it sort of played up the. Actually, yeah, no, I'll say this. I'll say this now because I had said this during the game. Like this sort of thing could have just been like rolling a d8 or whatever.
Yeah.
And then just taking one of the results and like that's the event that happens, and maybe some other way to figure out if that's successful or not. But like changing it up to be this grid thing where we had to pick a number, I think one, it increased the tension of it, because it's not like it increased the tension of it, and it felt more like a result of our actions, even though
Yeah.
it was basically the same thing as having a random number from a dice roll. But instead of like me just hitting a button and rolling the dice and it gives me a number, I'm picking like, where do we go next on this grid? What do I think is going to be a safe number? I don't know. Like, I straight up don't know. And then I pick something and it's like, I picked this. I didn't just roll it and get it. I chose whatever is under here. So I chose the results of whatever is under here. So I really like that. And it was like, again, it was challenging, but I still like, I just enjoyed how things like changed up in that way. Like that is one of the things that's great about skill checks in general. It just like changes up the pace of the game from like the usual RP rolls or combat rolls. So this then changing how skill checks work is just like something like new and different. I hadn't done something like this before. So like again, like as much as as much as I was getting some pilot damage there, and I was getting pretty close to dying. I think my pilot might have like 2 HP left.
Everyone's pilot has like 2 HP left because you guys kept choosing the pilot. Okay, here's the thing, right? So it's like the idea of the failure mechanic, I think, was where I should have put more ways for you guys to like, you know, like decrease the failure amount, right?
Mhm.
This is like I mentioned before, it was like every 4 failures you would increase the countdown as like accumulation of bad luck, right? I should have given you guys more ways of what I should say, decreasing the failure. So it was like, because at the beginning you guys are like, oh man, I don't want to increase the failure, right? But because there wasn't any way for you guys to undo it, right, for it to get better. But it's like, so you guys would just take a lot of pilot damage, and I was like, maybe I should have just like given you more ways to decrease it, because I came up with the idea after or like maybe like the tail end of the stream, and right afterwards I even made it even better, where there was number 6 was a hallway, right, where it was just like nothing happened, go pick a next one, right? I think hallways should have been, instead of it just being like a free pass, like 0, it should have been like a plus, because you're not impeded, right?
Yeah.
Technically, you can gain back some lost time because there's nothing slowing you down. So I should have just given you. I decided like at the end of the stream to be like, okay, you get 1 less failure, and I was like, maybe that's still not enough. I think that you should get like D3, right? It's like depending how fast you're able to move through the hallway. And then I was thinking even more that I might change those kind of nothing happens kind of thing to be like, okay, now that you found one, you can then any square adjacent, you can just choose to reveal and like resolve it. Essentially, if you want to go do it, then do it. But if you can just ignore it because you can see down the hallway, right? It's like if you're at one end of the hallway and you see a group of enemies in the other end of the hallway, you can choose not to go there, right?
Yeah.
I should have done that. That would have been like way better, because Steven did mention that he was like, I wish there was more of a chance to kind of figure out where to go, right? A little bit more direction, right? It was fun because you didn't know what you're gonna get, but it was still hard because it was random and it was difficult, right?
Yeah. So something more that gives you like a better idea of, because you did have something in there that like reveals some spaces. So something that like helps guide your choice as you're trying to decide which square to pick next.
Right. Yeah. I had basically in a computer's room, so you're able to like download some information on the base, right? But I only put 1 square out of 25 in there. I was like, yeah, this will be fine. Because I was like, I didn't want to be too
sure gonna pick that square and not 5 1s, which were all like reinforced walls.
But that's the thing, right? The first choice, it's all equal. Well, not all equal, but it's like you guys could have just hit it, right? And then it was like, okay, cool. You found the computer room, and then all of a sudden almost half the map's like figured out, right?
Yeah. I mean, like mathematically, yes, we had an equal chance. But with our luck, no, we certainly did not.
Yeah. I also had a room where you can spend time, like increase your failure, like waste time to repair your mechs, because I had like a mech hanger.
Yeah.
I was like, that was kind of cool. I like that idea, but I think I should have just doubled those rooms, giving you guys more chances to hit it, right? and give the hallways the ability to get failures, reduce your failures, so you can, instead of taking pallet damage and stuff, you guys could be like, okay, cool. Since it's like every 4 and you're already at 16, if one of you guys, instead of taking pallet damage, just increases it to like 17, it's not that big of a deal, right?
Yeah.
Versus
Yeah.
like you only have like 10 HP and wanna just die.
Yeah, I think that
Uh,
was a reason because yeah, we did have the option of like either I personally take damage or everyone gets closer to losing more because the failures we accrued, they would take away an amount from the countdown that was left after the previous battle, which was already like I think we took like I don't know 7 or 8 rounds in that battle.
yeah.
So yeah, like we didn't want to. It was like, do we screw over the team or do we screw over ourselves? Which I thought was a very. I don't know if you did that on purpose, but that was definitely what I was going through.
It was definitely purposeful because
Okay,
I was
good.
like, oh, 'cause I don't know how to like I wanted to like visualize like I wanted to kind of gamify the idea of like you could always just waste more time to not incur the problems, right? But then if you wasting time and being careful, it'll slow the whole team down, and then it'll make the actual next leg of the mission that much harder. But you can be that much more like safer, right? You
Right.
could like there was always an option for the negative stuff to increase the failure rate, so you can like keep your mech together, like always. And I think that's like, but everyone was like, no way, man. we already we already don't have enough time to do anything. And to be fair, the general rule for Lancer is like 5 to 6 rounds of stuff, right? Of like that's like a combat. It's 5 to 6 rounds. If there's like a time limit on something, it's like 6 rounds, right?
Right.
And I give you guys like 20 rounds, and there's gonna be, well, I told you guys now, there's 3 mech encounters and this one narrative encounter, right? So I was just like assuming that everything will kind of work out because it would just be like, you know, let's say if all the mech encounters do 6 rounds, right? So then that's 18, and then you have 2 rounds of dicking around in this whole narrative section, which equals out to like, I don't know, I think it would be like 8 failures if you guys did that, right? And I was like, okay, well, you might get more failures and you might go down a little bit, but I think we'll be okay, right?
Right.
And I don't know, man. I was so wrong. I believed in everything going a little bit too good.
Yeah, I mean
Uh,
that's just probabilities. That's just luck. I mean, if you want to keep balancing out this thing, that's definitely something you can do. But I think like you definitely have something fun here. If you want to balance it out so it's a bit less brutal,
yeah.
I would appreciate that. But
Yeah. And also I should have rewarded everyone a little bit more for rolling 20s, or like something where I think that I like right before this idea popped in my head where it would be like, okay, so in either it's like you guys need to get like in this scenario, it would be like you resolve lockdown, right? And maybe I'll take the difficulty away from lockdown. Lockdown was crazy. Lockdown was so hard,
yeah, that was
and
the
there
one
was so
where
much.
like just in case people haven't seen it yet, like
Yeah,
that would be an event where like these force fields or these blast doors come up. We lose the ability to assist our allies, and our checks become more difficult. And
yeah.
we ended up getting like almost every single one of that was on the map.
Yes, somehow they're pretty spread out. But you guys kept bouncing around the map and just hitting every single one of them. But to be fair, like I guess I put all of the hallways close together somehow. But everything was random too. I rolled everything randomly.
Hmm.
Uh, it was crazy how it ended up, but whatever. Um, yeah, so should also given the opportunity where if everyone kind of does well, like the count goes down, right? For every success you have, or every 20 you roll, or whatever, the failure should have automatically went down by 1, and that would have also given you guys back the resource of that failure, that time resource, right? Because then you guys would have been able to play with that more than playing with your mech resources or your pilot resources, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it was, I didn't give enough ways for you to really make failures not really just be detrimental like 100%, right? It could have been another resource you guys could imagine manage. But that's the thing, man. Like when you do something for the first time, and it probably will go shit. Like,
Yeah, I
it probably
mean,
won't work
you're
as
not
well
wrong.
the first time. Yeah, right. And so you just, you take it, you learn from it, and then you tweak it for next time. Because definitely, I think this is how I'm gonna run cool events now. Like I have like a million like it just once I figured this out, it opened up my mind to like the rest of the missions and the rest of the campaign. I was like, I have so many good ideas now. So I'm glad I did this.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see what you want to do those next. Which does kind of bring me to the topic that I did want to talk about, which is sort of like random tables and alternate systems and things like that. Was there anything else in the Lancer game you wanted to cover first, though?
No, I think that's it for the Lancer game pretty much. I think I kind of want to go over the okay, so like one, I love the Blackbeard as like a mech in general. So like I'm excited to see what it does. I'm also terrified of it because I've seen how dangerous it is. Like I know how dangerous it is. But I thought like your mobility and like and all that stuff was really cool. Even though the Barbosa is like super slow and like Calvin's character Steven's character is like also hesitant to kind of just move his body, move his mech. I was like, when he just blew like a giant hole in not even like the doors, just like he just removed parts of the building, and I was like, holy shit, right? I was like, I don't think I ever, I knew he was capable of it, but like the extent of like how powerful it is awesome. And like, what else? I like the Goblin is it's such like a synergizer. It's insane, man. I was like, all my stuff got like. I think you guys actually survived the first encounter because Joel was so good at jamming people.
Yeah.
Like it was crazy. It was crazy. And like Corey was good at supporting everybody and kind of just dealing a little bit of damage here and there and doing all that stuff. So I just want to again I want to thank all those motherfuckers for jumping into my game and playing it and jumping on the channel and doing it. That's just like I'm just the DM. These are the players, right? They also have to show up and do all the stuff.
Yeah, it is something that the audience has been really responding well to, and I'm grateful for that. And I'm like I told them right after the game, like I'm grateful for them showing up for that sort of thing, because it does take up time out of their day to play a game. So yeah, I don't know. I'm just really appreciative of them for that. But yeah, so tables, do you use them? So it is something that I've been using a bit more in some of my other games. I don't know if you want me to talk about it for a bit, or if you have anything you want to say about tables.
Well, I mean, okay, so if you guys, whoever's listening, and if they have the Lancer rulebook or is looking at Lancer or whatever, pick it up. It's a cool book because even when the tables themselves, right, like for downtime or anything, they always have like a little bit of verbiage with it. It's not just like a straight table like facts, right? This is what happens. It's always like a little bit of character, a little bit of flavoring on it, because like it's always like, oh man, that was like and I kind of took that into this table where it was like, wow, right, sweet, yes, you did it, sweet, choose one of the following, or nice, you did it, but oh no, choose one of the followings, right?
Mhm.
Like those little kind of bits, I think are really fun, and I'm gonna add them to all of my tables now, where it's like it gives like a little bit of narrative verbiage to whatever the thing actually is, right?
Right.
So you can imagine like oh gosh, a twig step or whatever, a twig snap, and like a rustle in the bushes, ambush, right?
Mhm.
Kind of helps you with that narrative, yes, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's like a big benefit of what they're there for, because like if you roll a random number onto this, like I guess I don't know if we've explained like what tables are in terms of games. Essentially they're like just like a chart of like rows and rows and columns rather, that for whatever scenario, like if it's a downtime thing or if it's an encounter, you roll a die. You might give it some certain conditions, but essentially like you get a random number from that die, and that random number gives you a random scenario, and then you as the DM insert that random scenario into whatever you're running at the moment. So something I've been using that a lot for, because I've been doing a lot of like travel stuff in my Pathfinder campaigns. So I went and I found like a encounter table for D&D, because D&D is the only game anyone ever plays. So I found an encounter table, and I just kind of tweaked it a bit. Essentially, I started with that table, and then I started like tweaking things around so that people could, as they're making their way around, they might have to do like checks for navigation, checks to find their way around, or checks to move stealthily, something like that. And then, given the difficulty of those checks, which I vary depending on what the weather condition is, which is something that I just kind of like bump up and down on like a little list that I have here. I bump it up and down depending on the mostly on the results of some other people's checks, but I also look at like in-game weather and stuff like that. I do want to.
Do you track the weather in your game? Like you track like distance and the calendar?
I have been.
time?
I have been. Like
Oh,
for the
are you
game,
serious, Calvin?
for the game I played last weekend, that was actually a significant part of the plot because I had on my on the game calendar. I had that like the winter season starts on like the 20th or 21st of that month, and when we started playing, it was like the 14th or 15th. So I was like, as I was describing it and setting the scene, I told them that they're feeling a bit of chill coming in from the north because winter is going to start in a week. And for me, that was just like setting the scene, but they really leaned into that. So part of what they were doing when they arrived at the next town was buying winter cloaks, which was super fun. They were actually in the town of Godswater, where you guys were in my the other campaign that I've talked about on here before. They were actually passing through that area,
Nice.
which
We
is
were there in the spring, right?
yeah,
Or the
yeah. You
summer.
were there earlier in the year,
Yeah.
because I'm just running everything in the same year. But this is after that kobold encounter that I described before. So the kobolds have gone through town. So Godswater is a little rougher off than when you guys left it.
Okay.
I mean, I do kind of want to go into like a whole summary of that. I don't know if we have time for it since we're coming up on 50 minutes. So I kind of want to keep this concise to the tables thing, and then maybe I'll do a
bring it
full
up,
summary next week because I'm playing again on the 30th.
Yeah, and then maybe the plot will thicken even more, and it'll be even juicier.
Yeah, I mean, because that was a really fun session for me. That it was the first session I've ever run that had 0 combat in it. And that just went so well that I kind of want to like reconfigure my entire XP system.
Oh, really?
Because it's like I
Nice.
really want to reward them for everything that they did because it just felt like such a great session still, and it's kind of sucks that they get like less XP for that.
Well, the thing is with that game, with Pathfinder 2, like Dungeons and Dragons, most of the rules are built for killing monsters,
Yeah.
right? And most of the sheet on your character sheet is just basically
It's
how
how
to
good
kill
are you at killing
monsters.
monsters? Yeah, exactly. Like it's just I don't know. I want to reward them more, so I might like just give them a bit more bonus XP if I'm being honest.
Well, you could do it as, like minor victories, major victories, or whatever. You could like set whatever the DC levels, you can translate that into CR levels, because that's essentially what they are, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
like,
I for sure might do that. Because I don't know. I want to avoid summarizing it, but they did a couple of things that are like closing up certain plot threads that were open in previous sessions, as well as starting things that are going to like develop down the line. So I just want to make sure that they're rewarded well for that.
Well, I would love to see like you break it down a little bit. Maybe once you put a little more thought into it, of like, maybe taking the monster XP calculator and really kind of putting like, is this a major plot point? Maybe that's like 4 levels worth of CR, right, or something like that, 4 levels higher from the players, or is it like lower than that? And then maybe you can just be like, they do something, you're like, I think that's this much, and then just keep track of it.
Yeah.
Be a better way to do it.
Because like I think the book describes like 3 different levels of narrative XP. So something that like happens like within the session, something that happens like over a couple of sessions, and something that's like a longer term goal. So I might adjust those to be like more similar to, I guess, combat XP.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah,
I think I might do that too. Once we start Inion again. I'll plot things out a little bit more and give them like XP values or as well. So it'd be useful. Yeah, I'm excited to see that. I always love hearing your like Alvin, like you like still really impressive that you have a whole calendar and shit. Because like I kind of have a calendar, but it's really just like a day count.
Yeah, I mean, I actually,
But
because
it's not
I also, if you've been in our RPG chat Discord, I updated that recently. So our private
yeah, see it
Discord
all
that
the
I'm
time.
talking about in front of our audience for some reason.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, oh, this is so cool. Every time I see stuff, sometimes I'll look in there and it'll just like copy paste, like just download it. I'll be like, I'll use this later for my own work.
As you should, Ramad, as you should. That's the point of putting it out there.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe I'll take this table after I spruce it up a little bit, and maybe I'll make it available for our viewers.
Oh yeah, for
I
sure.
will do that, and I will drop a link in the description. Probably be like a Google Docs, or maybe we could link it to the website or something like that. But we'll figure that out on the back end. And
Oh yeah.
I'm pretty proud of what I did, although it still needs some work.
But we'll get there. Gosh, we were supposed to talk about tables, and now we're. This is the best thing about our podcast, how we just ramble about stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what I was saying at the table was, again, like as they travel, I give them a skill check, and that skill check can vary how much, like how likely they are to end up on a certain thing. Because like they'll do the skill check, I'll get the result, and for them, because they had 2 carts, I basically I would look at like whether there was like a fail, success, or critical fail, critical success, and then just average that out instead of averaging out the result of the roll. So there was one point where there was like a critical fail, but someone else had got like a normal success, so that ended up just being like regular fail, which is makes it less likely that they run into something hostile, and more likely they'll just see like other travelers on the road or just something unusual in their path.
Right.
And
Are your players like aware of like how your back end mechanics work?
not
I mean,
entirely. They're aware of like what they have, like they don't know the DCs of stuff, and they don't
Yeah.
know how it affects the encounter table, but they are aware that like they roll some sort of navigation check, and then I have them roll a check to see what sort of things you run into, and then from there I go to another table to see like what is the thing you've run into. Like, is it something hostile? Is it another person on the road? Is it just some unusual landmark?
Okay, cool.
Um,
I gotta do that. That sounds awesome, but sounds like a lot of work.
yeah, no, I think I might link the table I was inspired by, and then maybe like a glimpse of my notes of how I changed it up. But the thing that kind of went like not great though was they did end up on the same thing a couple of times, just through different ways. So I just had to like bump up to like the next thing on the list.
Right.
So like right at the start of the session, they ran into like a caravan that was transporting this wealthy traveler. Not the one you've met before, but it was the caravan drivers that you met before, who were coming out of who were like taking you to Godswater.
Those twins, right?
Yeah, the twins.
Yeah.
And I really want to talk about everything that happened with them because it was really awesome, but I'm trying to focus. But again, like that's just the benefit of like having a game operating in the same world. I get to reuse some characters. So yeah, like that was just the thing that they ran into, and then it created this whole scenario where I guess I'll go into it more next week, but they did see that this person like had a lot of expensive stuff, but their cart was stuck, so they ended up moving the stuff onto their own carts and getting it into town. And then they stored the stuff in their rooms while the other, like the merchant, went to get his own like place. They stored the stuff in their rooms, and the twins stayed in the same hotel, or the same tavern, or inn rather. And then there was a whole thing that was like, do we want to steal some stuff from here? And I had like a couple of things, like I had to go and get like a couple of things that would be in there. Just some like low level stuff, but it just, again, what I liked about the random table is it creates narrative situations that I might not have thought of in the moment, but it gives me some inspiration of ideas. Like, I didn't know what was going to be in their path, but suddenly it was this random like merchant, and I described like all the things he was wearing, like that were all related to, Abadar, who's the god of commerce, and he was coming from this place, going to this place, and it let me do a bit of world building that I might not have been able to do normally if I was just like, I don't know, it's a couple of bears or something.
There's some bears. Yeah, it's cool because you could always just keep adding more stuff to the table, right?
Mhm.
Like eventually you could just keep adding more infinite amount of stuff to your table to have like 100 items, and now it's a D100 table, right? But every time they roll, they'll always get something new. I think that's like probably the goal
Yeah,
to get.
basically, because like they did end up on the caravan thing again somehow, and I just had to like go to something different, which turned out pretty interesting. It's gonna be dealt with next time, but I think it turned out pretty interesting.
I guess
Uh,
that kind of makes sense. Your comment before. I'm assuming when you said that it was like really impressive that you could just it's up to the player's fate, even if they got something. It felt like less like random and more like you're choosing, even though it's still random
yeah,
because everything's kind of predetermined. You just have to pick it out.
yeah,
But like you can't get the same exact result. It's just that there's just multiple copies of it, right?
yeah,
So
basically.
yeah,
Yeah, like when like I guess for the table, it kind of feels more like the DM has to do a bit more of the heavy lifting,
yeah.
in terms of that. But I mean, yeah, whatever works out for your game, because I found this really worked out well for me personally. So, and then another thing that they were dealing with was that like last session, they ran into like again this random interesting looking thing in their path, and it was this ancient tree with like this writing on it. And I hadn't fully determined in my head what the writing would be at the time, but because it was a thing that they had to like get translated and then I could deal with it next session, it gave me time to like write out this story, and it let me tie it to this one spot in my game world that I had made in like 2018, back when I was doing more things that were like based on like pre-written stuff.
2018 Calvin, so smart. Thanks, Calvin.
Yeah, right. So I went
Yeah.
back there, and it was just like this very vague thing that I had gotten from a book and then changed up a bit. So I just kind of like put that out there, and that was what they translated from, again, this random event. And their path took them into the town that was like specifically related to that thing. Um, and then they had like a really interesting encounter there that I really want to talk about, but I'm not going to talk about it now because I'm going to get distracted again. Again, like it just gave me the opportunity to do something new that I hadn't thought of when making my notes for what's going to happen in this session. I had a whole combat thing that they totally avoided because they were scared. that's that's another story.
Oh my god.
But
PC's being scared, unheard of.
I kept dropping hints of a thing that was going on, and at one point it was like, "Yeah, no, we know, but we're moving on."
It's like, nope, no thanks. We don't want to be a part of this.
Which was like, yeah, I guess that's totally an option, isn't it? So yeah, no, they moved on and they got like just more like world building details. Like there was a whole thing like I was doing, like it was a bit of a lore dump, but they really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And they got all their winter cloaks. So, but yeah, then so they moved on. Like the last thing we did in the session was them getting to the final location they were going to, and again I had to roll on the table, and this was the point where they got the merchant again. But then I just moved up to something else, which was that they were being attacked by like a bandit, but there was something strange and unique about this bandit. And rather than try to figure out if it could have been Alina again, if she could have moved there at that point in time. No, like I just thought of something different for the bandit, which I'll guess I'll give a hint about, that it was actually like a child that was trying to sneak up on them. And then they got a little hint of something like untoward going on in the next big city they're going to. So they might deal with that, but also they have to get on a boat to go back to the main quest and stuff like that. Like that was the point of them traveling to the city, was to find a boat. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Is there a possibility of Captain Helen High Water showing up?
Maybe. Maybe.
Maybe. Okay.
I mean, possibly, probably, like definitely.
Definitely.
My thing for them was like I gave them a few options of like there's 3 different places they could have gone to get a boat, somewhere further away, but they'd be more likely to get like a better quality or faster boat. They chose to go for the middle one, so that's going to change up like I guess what kind of ship captains are there.
Okay, cool.
But probably Helen's going to be there.
I don't know how you're running this crazy road trip adventures. You're running two of them.
It's honestly like just so much fun to like build more stuff, like to write more things. Like I updated my map again, just to put more spaces to fill out more things. I try to avoid just like making something without any particular purpose. Like everything at least has a sentence or two describing what it is. But no, it's just
Right.
it's so much fun. Like like this thing that just happened last session, where they've been to somewhere that another party has already been to, twice even, because they went to Godswater where you guys were, and then they went to a place that I haven't touched since like 3 years ago. And then I had to like I was giving them like details on stuff that I wrote like ages ago. Just it was I don't know that's kind of why I'm doing it.
Calvin, you live in the dream. You live in the DMing dream.
Really feels like it. But yeah, like I guess to relate this back to random tables, like they give for me they gave like inspiration and ideas, so I don't have to determine exactly like what happens on each leg of this trip, but I'll have something that'll like let me think of, oh, here's something that can happen. Like it gives me that basis of they run into a thing, describe that thing. Like one thing they ran into was like there's a big hill that looks like a sleeping giant. And then like it I don't know, it makes the setting feel more alive. It gives me more
Yeah.
like points of things that like exist in the space, so it's not just like one big flat grassland.
Yeah, that dot like narrative plane where it's like you guys travel through a forest and that's it.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
It also helps me stall, so I have more time to figure out what's going to be at the end of that journey.
Apply the duct tape, get the staple gun. Oh god, I gotta get the plot together.
Exactly. It's that image of putting together a train track while the train is going.
Yeah.
Like if I have a table, then the train's going slower because I got to deal with, hey, you ran into something.
Yeah, that's how I feel. I think for a lot of new campaigns when I start, it's always like the first couple of sessions are always just kind of like, let me get a feel of what's going on, right? Like I kind of have an idea, but I don't really know where the plot needs to go. And then I do enough so like we can play, but then I do a little bit on the back end of where we need to go, and then like eventually like those things connect, right?
Mhm.
Then you're like, sick, we can go to the next part, and then you just start all over again. But yeah, I think I mentioned a couple times in the previous podcast where it's like Lancer is still pretty new to me, but now I think I've got it. I think I have like a good idea of where we need to go for at least a couple of the missions. Although I'm trying to get everyone to license level 12, which seems a little monumental still. But I still have enough ideas. I think enough cool different ideas for us to get there.
Yeah, I think we can do that. Our scheduling is a little weird. We got to figure that out, I guess. But I don't know. I like what we've been doing, how we've been doing it so far. And I hope people have been enjoying our streams. It certainly seems like they have been, so I hope they continue
Sure.
to do so.
Yes, I hope so too.
But yeah, I don't know if I have anything else to say about tables. I will say that in preparation for our Starfinder game, I have been creating a table for when you guys are in drift travel, which is like the faster than light travel in Starfinder, where you go into like a magical plane and can come out, so you can travel for like very far distances in a matter of days. I have been working on something for that, so I'm excited to get to that. Hopefully we can do that some point soon. Well, I guess we'll have to talk about that off air. But yeah, definitely we've got Starfinder in the pipeline. We've got more Lancer in the pipeline. We're going to be playing more and more games. We've got another Lancer video upcoming. I'd like to get it out this week, which is just Ramon guiding me through making a character. So
Yeah.
hopefully you'll be seeing that soon.
Soon, hopefully.
Don't think I have much else other than the normal outro stuff. Ramon, did you want to say anything else?
Try something new, man.
Yeah, basically, that's yeah.
Yeah, try something new. Like, moral of the story, like, just give it a shot. If it doesn't work out, then just tweak it and then try it again. And keep giving stuff to your players to shake up the normal sessions, and you'll be rewarded greatly.
Yeah.
Uh,
And as a player, if you want to give your DM feedback when they try something new, then that's the best way for them to like develop it.
oh yeah, please do, because if you guys didn't tell me anything, I would continue making this thing kind of hard.
Yeah, like I think
But I
I'm
like
bad at
it.
feedback, like as a person, but I recognize the importance of it.
Yeah, definitely important to tell your DM what worked and what you thought didn't work. In a constructive manner, not just like this was shit.
Yeah,
Doesn't
don't do
matter.
that. Don't do that. But yeah, again, if you like this episode, just check us out on Twitter and Facebook, where we'll tweet out, every time there's a new post or every time there's a new stream. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Ring that notification bell so you get notified whenever we upload a new episode or whenever a stream goes live. Check out our website, winwithdice.ca. Just so you can see more about us and the team. We'll definitely be posting more stuff on there once we get our Starfinder game going, and I do want to put more stuff up there about our Lancer characters, just so people can come in and just so they're already familiar with who those characters are. And yeah, I think that's about it. So I don't know. Hey Ramon, do you want to say the phrase? You haven't done it before. Do you want to try it? Do you want to see how it feels?
Well, I definitely will like to tell the people to keep on winning with dice.
Ah, there it is.
Yes. Feels so powerful.
That's why I do it.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching.
See you next week.
Or listen. Bye.